Hey guys, what's going on? It's Extremism here again, and it has been quite some time since I did one of these. Wow. And yes, I must explain this really quickly. I did mention before that I've started working for Enthusiast Gaming about a year ago, and since now that I'm graduated from high school, I've been taking it really seriously. So I've been constantly on the website daily, writing articles, doing video game reviews, and things such as that on Nintendo enthusiasts and PC enthusiasts especially. So that's the reason why I haven't been paying much attention to my YouTube channel, because I've actually been working, This is more of a, it's a hobby. So this doesn't make me any money. So of course, what's going to take priority is the one that gives me the moolah. But really, so I do apologize for all my subscribers for the inactivity, but I'm hopefully starting to try and pick that back up, because I'm pretty much home all the time because I work from home, obviously. So I really want to pick this back up while I have the time. But anyway, I'm going to start, shortening the length of these videos, so let's get into the discussion. All right, now then, the NX was announced back in April. Well, I shouldn't say it was announced. The existence of the system was announced back in April. Well, was it April? I know it was somewhere in the springtime anyway. And the reasoning behind this was, as Satoru Iwata explained, it was because at the same time Nintendo was announcing they were moving to to mobile devices. And they don't want people to think that, okay, if they're moving to mobile devices, does that mean that they're not making consoles anymore? So they didn't want to show that, they wanted people to think that they weren't making consoles anymore. And that's the reason why they announced the existence of the NX, to give people faith that, hey, the Wii U and 3DS, they're not our last systems. We're still coming back for another generation, so don't worry about this. And I understand why they did it, because of course, when news comes out, people get really excited. And by excited, I mean really crazy. And they start coming up with really interesting theories, like they're doing now. And they try to nullify that, So I understand why they did it, but the end result was still basically the same. Instead of people wondering if Nintendo was going to stop making hardware, now they have the problem of trying to convince people that they're not replacing the Wii U and the 3DS within a year. Because now people are thinking that the NX is coming next year. And when I say people, I'm not just talking about gamers. Even critics have come out and said, yeah, well, I think they're going to release this thing next year, because Wii U isn't doing so hot. 3DS is a handheld device, so you can't really count that in. So I understand why people might think that the NX is coming out next year. But at the same time, it really isn't that simple, okay? Yes, the Wii U hasn't been too successful of a system. It's been the lowest selling system, even under tracking that of the GameCube, which still currently holds the official title of being the least selling home console made from Nintendo. So yes, I understand why people think that Nintendo is going to just up and replace the Wii U next year. They want to do it as quickly as possible so they can still try and make a break to try and come out truly successful in this generation. But it's not that easy, okay? Even though the Wii U has had a hard time, it's been making money for Nintendo. They completely blew away all their losses that they initially incurred. As with every console maker, they always incur some losses in the beginning. So they completely blew away their losses, and they've actually started to make a profit. Yes, the profit isn't as big as the Wii was, or how much the 3DS has been making, but it's still a profit. The Wii U is a product. A product is meant to be sold to customers. If that product is able to make money for the creators of that product, then it's successful, financially successful. It's only when it constantly starts losing money, like the PS3, then it can be considered a true financial failure. So the Wii U doesn't really classify as a financial failure. Not like, say, the Virtual Boy, which died only after, 2-3 years on the market. The Wii U is still around. It's about to turn 3 years old next month, so it's had a good run initially. It's starting to get up in age, yes, but it's still not ready to be replaced. The average Nintendo system isn't replaced until at least 5 years on the market. And 5 years means 2017 is when, if they go with their pattern that they've followed since the NES, okay, so they've always followed this pattern, so I don't know why they would change it now. If they were to go with the pattern that they've always followed, then 2017 is definitely when we can expect to see the NX come out. Okay, so yeah, I totally understand that people may think that, you know, them just overlooking the Wii U and just moving over to NX should be a pretty easy fix, but it's not that simple. Because let's look at the Wii U fan base, okay? The Wii U fan base is very dedicated, and I say that because, you know, you have bought a system which the industry is basically ignoring. However, you've stuck it out, okay? You did it. The first year, the Wii U was terrible. I was there, okay? I bought this thing in December of 2012. So I've been here since the beginning. I've seen it through its worst times, and I'm currently seeing it through some pretty good times. So I've seen its really, really bad times. So this system, any owner of this system, you know, who still constantly uses the thing, they must be commended, because it really is. There were quite a few times that I wondered, should I really have bought this when I bought this? You know, should I just waited until it got old and cheap and I could just go back and play its games, you know, 4 or 5 years later? But I'm glad that because it's brought me so much enjoyment, so I'm really glad I bought the system. But for those who haven't, and there are so much who haven't, you know, they just think that, you know, it's not really worth buying, and a lot of gamers, both Nintendo fans and other gamers, you know, on other camps, they're thinking that, okay, whatever future projects the Wii U has, they just should be shifted to NX, because that's exactly what Nintendo needs to do, is just replace it and just start over again. But it's not that simple. You know, how are you going to, okay, you have your fan base, so you need to not piss off your fan base who've been trying to support you through your worst times. This is looking at it from Nintendo's perspective. They have to think about the over 10 million Wii U owners. Okay, how are we going to sell them a new system without pissing them off? So if they were to release this thing next year, that would probably most likely require them to cut support for the Wii U. Even if they don't do it automatically, it's going to happen at least within 6 months to a year. So how are we going to not piss them off? How are we going to convince them that, okay, we messed up here, but please stick around, let's try this again? It just doesn't work that way, okay? It does not work that way. The average console generation for Nintendo has always been at least 5 years, like I mentioned before. So if you cut the system early, how are you going to not piss them off? All right. And if the NX flops, how are you going to convince them, okay, this trial also failed, but stick around, let's try this again? No, you can't do that. Okay, so they're taking a risk already if they were to go with an early release. You have to try not to piss them off. You have to try to convince them the same thing is not going to happen again. And even looking past the Nintendo fan base, what about the rest of the gaming industry? The rest of the gaming industry that is right now looking at Nintendo and laughing. You know, they don't consider Nintendo to be much of an entity in the industry anymore. Developers have completely ignored it, and other gamers just when you have a topic about gaming, when you have a big discussion, it's always PlayStation versus Xbox. It's never PlayStation versus Xbox versus Nintendo. Nintendo is almost never mentioned. Anytime Nintendo is mentioned, it's just to throw more shade at them. So how are you going to change your image? Because they put themselves in a very, very interesting position with the Wii and DS, you know, creating weaker hardware, different from everything else. And they tried to replicate that same success again with the Wii U and 3DS, and it didn't work. So then, how are you going to convince the rest of the gaming industry that, okay, we mean business now, let's do this, okay? What about the third-party developers? Even if the NX is a beautiful system, when I say beautiful, I mean it's exactly what developers are looking for, because Nintendo's had a very hard time trying to adapt to the wishes of developers ever since the N64. So if this system is perfectly fine for today's gaming, how are you going to convince the third parties that they're going to have an audience to sell their games to? So you see, it's a catch-22 situation. They have to cater to their fan base. They have to cater to the rest of the gaming industry at the same time. There's a distrust between the two. The fan base doesn't trust third parties, and third parties don't trust the fan base. The fan base doesn't trust third parties because they think they're just going to get shafted as usual. And third parties don't trust the fan base because they think they're not interested in their games. So then, how do you fix that? Even if the NX is a beautiful system, like I said, it's not going to suddenly fix the problem. Nintendo's going to have to do some serious begging. And when I say begging, I mean throwing money at them, just like PlayStation and Xbox does. Throwing money at the developers to try and get these games developed on the same level as everybody else. And then maybe, just maybe, we'll start to see more interest from Nintendo's fan base. But even looking past Nintendo's fan base, how do you convince the rest of the gaming industry that you should have this console and only this console? Okay? That's what I mean. So yes, the Wii U has not caught amount of attention that it deserves, but at the same time, neither does that mean that they should try and just, put it away and start over again. It's just not that simple. You have over 13 million people who are already on the other sides. How are you going to convince over 30 million people to buy your system? How? Just think about it, everyone. Just think. Okay, guys, so like I said, I'm going to try and, shorten the length of these videos. I'm starting with this one. So we're just going to stop here for now. I may talk about this again, this time focusing more on the Zelda U situation. So until next time, guys, thank you for watching. And as always, have a good one.